These three parts of prudence comprehend the activity of the intellect in the practice of this virtue, for they secure the good order of our actions in regard to past, the present, and the future. However, when we consider this virtue under another aspect, namely, in so far as it perceives the proper means for the practice of virtue, and directs the will to employ them rightly, the teachers and philosophers mention 5 other points or different kind of activities of prudence, namely, docility, reasonableness, cleverness, circumspection, and caution. Docility is the good judgment and readiness of the creature to be taught by others better informed than itself, and a disposition not inflated by its own knowledge, and not resting unduly on its own insight and wisdom. Reasonableness, or the power of drawing correct inferences, consists in reasoning without error from generally understood principles to the particular course of action in each single case. Cleverness is a diligent attention and practical application of our activity to that which happens, enabling us to judge rightly and follow the best course of action, just as docility is attention to the teachings of others. Circumspection is a just consideration of the circumstances connected with each good work, for it is not sufficient that the end of our actions be good, but it is necessary to consider the opportuneness of the circumstances. Cautiousness is a discreet attention to the dangers or impediments, so that when they occur under cover of virtue or unexpectedly, we may not be found rash or unprepared. All these complements of prudence existed in the Queen of Heaven without any faultiness and in their fullest perfection. Docility belonged to Mary as the legitimate daughter of her incomparable humility, for though she had received the plenitude of science from the moment of her immaculate conception, and though she was the teacher and mother of true wisdom, she nevertheless allowed herself to be taught by her elders, by her equals, and by those below her, esteeming herself as lower than all of them, and seeking to be a disciple of those who in comparison to her were most ignorant. This docility she exhibited during all her life, like a most simple dove, disguising her wisdom with a greater prudence than that of the serpent. As a child, she accepted instruction from her parents, from her teacher in the temple, from her companions, and later on from her spouse, Saint Joseph, from the apostles. From all creatures she wished to learn, being a prodigy of humility, as I have said in another place, number 406 and 472. The reasonableness or prudent judgment of Most Holy Mary can be easily inferred from what St. Luke says of her, that she kept and pondered in her heart the mysterious events in the life of her Most Holy Son. This pondering was the reasoning which she employed, comparing cause with cause in the order in which they occurred and happened, and by this comparison she formed for herself most prudent counsels, which enabled her to act with the perfection peculiar to her. Although she very often understood many things without the discourse of reasoning by simple intuition and intelligence, which exceeded all human understanding, yet, as far as the actual exercise of the virtues was concerned, she applied this process of reasoning from the abstract principles of virtue to her own practice of them. In regard to cleverness and diligent application of the rules of prudence, the sovereign lady also was highly privileged, for she was not weighed down by the heavy load of human passion and corruption, and thus she felt not our languors and tardiness in her faculties, But she was always alert, ready, and very skillful in noticing and attending to all that was necessary to come to a correct and wholesome conclusion in the performance of virtuous actions, and in striking readily and quickly the happy medium of virtue in her doings. Equally admirable was most holy Mary in her circumspection, for all her works were so accomplished that no point of perfection was missing, and all of them stand forth in the highest perfection possible. And as the greater part of her actions were works of charity towards the neighbor, and all of them most opportune, therefore in all her teaching, admonishing, consoling, beseeching, and correcting of her neighbor, the efficacious sweetness of her reasonable and pleasing manners met with its full success.